I'm Ben Morris, and I came to live here at Old Mill Farm about 10-11 years ago, and this is the old water mill that was the corn mill for the Greenway Estate, and it's a completely beautiful location here on the banks of the Dart. We had to do a lot of work on the house. It needed a lot of work to do it up, and we started talking to people about the fact that, rumour had it was a water mill, and it had been a water mill since Tudor times. And we chatted with John Crisp, who runs the JCB in the village, who's a wonderful man. And John told me that part of the water mill had been buried below the concrete alongside the house. And this became increasingly intriguing, and one day we got a hammer out and started looking for it, and we were delighted to find the original castings from the wheel buried under a concrete slab. That was great because we managed to use them as patterns to cast them up at the Northfields foundry, and they of course were intrigued by it and very possibly cast the original wheel back in 1830 or something like this. So we managed to get all the castings. The wheel is sort of octagonal, so we found half of the middle boss and one casting from each side of the wheel. So the wheel has got 8 spokes with 8 perimeter castings and a central boss. And I made up in the end a plywood model for the boss, and as I say, cleaned up these castings around the edge. Anyway, Northfields cast them, and they were delivered down to the house. Actually, I picked them up in my car and nearly bust the back suspension. But I brought them here and I got so excited about it. I was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to bolt this wheel together, which I did entirely on my own, which was quite a feat because some of these castings were like 50 kilos. I also run the Boatyard round the corner in Galmpton Creek, and we managed to get a prop shaft out of a fishing boat, which we used as the axle for the wheel, which is a bit more sophisticated than the original one, which was probably timber. So we set the wheel up in what's called Cooper bearings, which are bearings used to take the shaft of a boat because you can split them and maintain them without removing the shaft, and built a steel perimeter to hold this wheel and bolted it together in situ, which was interesting because of the weights involved. You had to bolt an axle on and then the perimeter on one side, and then pull it round with a bit of rope and bolt it on exactly opposite, so you'd have equilibrium as you gradually built the wheel up. My appreciation, I have to say, for the original Tudor builders of the wheel really grew because, to make the wheel so it runs true and doesn't, as it were, run eccentrically, was really interesting. And we took some time, or I took some time having to tune it to make it run true. Anyway, we managed to get the wheel up, and then of course the most interesting problem in some ways was how do you get the water to the wheel. We have a leat here which collects water from 3 streams about 2 miles away, and it always runs, although it runs a lot more in the winter than in the summer. And and the interesting thing was, although we could get the water to the wheel quite easily, it's how do you engineer it so that if you get, say, a sudden thunderstorm in the middle of the night, the wheel doesn't go crazy. So you have to have an overflow system, so as the water increases in volume, you'll, as it were, get rid of the excess water down another stream. And it was really interesting because you had to get the lead absolutely level over a distance of about half a mile. And the only way really to do that is to do it and then make little adjustments, because it's almost impossible to, without a very powerful laser level, which I don't have, to engineer it. And certainly the Tudor people didn't have laser levels. So I mean, it takes you on to things like Stonehenge. I mean, the wonderful thing about Stonehenge is they managed to get, Neolithic people managed to get the top of Stonehenge absolutely level, despite the fact it's built on a sloping hill. How they did it, I have no idea. But the level of engineering sophistication in these pre-industrial people was really quite extraordinary. So, how was the mill used? There is a mill pond further up the hill, and there isn't that much water in this leat. So I guess what used to happen was that the mill pond was filled up overnight, and then the miller went on and turned the water on when he wanted to mill his corn. There is an old deed I have which says that the wheel here ran 2 millstones. Which is quite interesting because it takes about 3 kilowatts to run a millstone. So running 2 gives you an idea that they were generating about 6 kilowatts of power. And I think probably in the middle of the winter, we've done quite a lot of measurements of the amount of water we get, and we can probably generate around about 6 kilowatts of electricity using the wheel. In the summer, it's probably down to about 2 kilowatts. So, which is probably about the power that the house uses between the winter and the summer. So we hope very much that once I get the power generation equipment on the wheel, we'll go off grid, and which will just be nice intellectually, well, and hopefully financially, although it's cost a fortune so far. Anyway.